We are about to be talking cooking this afternoon. We've got Chef Pailin joining us. She's Vancouver-based, and we'll be talking about cooking and ingredients and COVID-19, etc. She will be joining us momentarily. So just waiting for Pailin to jump on in here and request to join, and then we will get started. I think we've got her coming on right now.
Hi.
Hi, Chef. Hi, Pailin.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
awesome.
We've got some people joining us right now. So if people have any questions today, they can write those in there for us, and we'll try to take them, or just comment if you'd like to do that. And we will talk cooking. So the last time I saw you was like a few years ago. Was your cookbook launch for Hot Thai Kitchen.
That was so long ago.
Maybe that was like 4 years ago.
It was 2016, yeah.
It was a while ago, right? So
yeah.
You've done a lot since then, and you did a lot kind of leading up to it, right? So
yes.
Can you tell me when did you actually get interested in cooking? Were you like a little kid, or were you kind of older, or how did that come about?
Oh yeah, I was always interested in cooking. Like I don't remember a time where I wasn't. Like the kitchen has always drawn me. So when I was little, I would always just go play in the kitchen, and I would ask to do whatever they would let me. And back in the day, it used to be making coconut milk. So because that's sort of fun for a kid, you like get to squeeze the coconut flesh and watch all the juice comes out, or like pound things in a mortar and pestle was really fun. I don't know how effective I was, probably not very effective, but it was fun anyway to do it. Yeah, and then when I was more capable, then I started to actually cook things, and it's just always been an interest of mine. Yeah.
So, Hot Thai Kitchen, did the book come before the show, or did the show come before the book?
No, the show came long before the book. So it all started as a YouTube channel. In 2009 was when it started, believe it or not.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I was a student in culinary school at the time, and I was just like immersed in learning about cooking, and I was just all gung-ho about all these things that I was learning. And I just felt like I wanted to also share what I knew. I was in San Francisco at the time, and I wasn't very happy with the state of Thai food in North America in general. And I felt like I needed an outlet to let people know how good Thai food can really be and what it's really like. And so I started the channel just as a creative outlet. I've always wanted to have a cooking show. So it started, and then as the show grew, people started asking for a book, which really surprised me, because I was like, I'm already giving you the recipes. Why do you also want a book? Like, to me, I was like, I thought like people just wanted recipes, but then what I realized was people don't buy books for the recipes. Right. Necessarily. I think a lot of times they buy a book because it's a chef they like, and it's just a physical thing that they can have that represents the person that they like and follow. Like I have hundreds of cookbooks that I have not cooked from ever. Right. Like, and I think we all have cookbooks that we have never cooked from, but we just want them and we look through them. And so once I realized that was the case, then I was like, okay, let's have a book. But then when I got down to thinking about writing the book, then I realized there were a lot of things that I couldn't share in the video, because the videos were all based on recipes. Like today we're going to cook this, next day we're going to cook this, next day we're going to cook this. But there's a lot of bigger picture things that's not related to a particular recipe, like the foundation of Thai cuisine in general. So then I realized, wow, the book is a really great opportunity to write about that which would be too much to put into a recipe video. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then I realized, well, a book is a great medium for some things that's not good for video.
So over the past months, it's been everybody's been cooking up a storm. People are cooking up all over the world. I mean, just Vancouver, but like everywhere. So flour became the #1 ingredient, it seemed, especially in North America. Do you have any idea to why flour became like the #1 ingredient that everybody was searching for?
Well, I can certainly attest to that because I was looking for flour myself. I was going all over the place looking for it. There's something about being at home and being in sort of like a stressful situation that really draws people to baking. Like I've always loved to bake, but with the Hot Thai Kitchen, I haven't baked as much because I spend so much time developing recipes for the show, and baking isn't really a big part of the show. But with quarantine, like I found myself wanting to bake. And there's just something slow. I think with baking, it's slow. You can take your time, you can think, you're following a recipe, you're not pressured by the heat of the stove, like when you say stir frying. So it's a little more meditative. And I think that's why people were baking and were looking for flour. And with quarantine, I did a couple of shows when I filmed at home and I made pancakes, I made waffles, I made granola. And if you haven't checked out the pancake and the waffles recipe, they're something.
You and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago about incorporating Asian flavors into foods. How would you incorporate Asian flavors into your pancakes, into your waffles? What would you do?
So with desserts, a really easy, there's a couple things to do. One is coconut milk. It's a really easy way. Like in Thai desserts, we do not use milk ever. Like dairy is just not a part of our cuisine. So our creamy liquid is coconut milk. So if you just make that switch, already you're there. And then our version of vanilla is pandan leaves. So pandan leaves are these long green aromatic leaves that we basically simmer in a liquid. So you would simmer in coconut milk and then extract all that flavor in. You can buy extracts. The extracts aren't as good though. For this, you really want to get fresh. And you can get fresh. T&T has them a lot. If not fresh, then frozen. A lot of Asian markets will have them frozen. So like boiling that into a liquid and then using that in your baked goods, or you blend it up, you blend the leaves up with water and then juice it, strain it, basically, get all the fibers out, and then you get this beautiful aromatic green liquid that you then use in baked goods or whatever it is. So you see a lot of Southeast Asian desserts have a lot of green colored desserts. That is why.
So have you ever done anything with any ube? Have you done anything with lemongrass, like lemongrass waffles or ube waffles? That seems to be a thing right now.
Ube is not something that we have in Thailand. Like that's Filipino thing. Although so it's a kind of like a sweet potato type thing, right? We have like in Thailand, we have sweet potato donuts, which you would basically take any kind of sweet potato, really, mix it with tapioca starch, and then make them into little balls and fry them. They're way easier than making a yeast donut, the Western yeast donuts. You don't need yeast, you don't need anything. So forgiving. They have a chewy texture, kind of like mochi, a really great way to like eat sweet potato. And then lemongrass. Lemongrass is one thing that I personally feel it's too weak to use as like an infusion into a dessert. Like it's a very delicate scent that by the time you mix it into desserts and things that are like quite sweet, you lose it. Like I see a lot of craft beer in Vancouver where they'll try to like say it has lemongrass in it, and I never taste it. Okay. I don't know if you've had craft beer that's there are. I've had a few because I always. My husband and I we're always buying craft beer, and whenever there's an Asian ingredient in it, we're always like, let's try it. I have never been able to taste lemongrass in the beer. Like I'm sure it's doing something really subtle, but not to the point where I can drink it and go, oh yeah, that's lemongrass. And that's because lemongrass is a really, really delicate flavor that I don't find translates well in things that you can't have actual pieces in it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So there's a question here about the cow soy. Can you see that there? Can you give an easy sauce to go with cow soy?
Cow soy is a noodle soup.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that question is asking.
But maybe perhaps like what if someone wanted a vegan, like cow soy is chicken usually, But
Uh-huh.
if someone wanted to make a vegan version of that, would anyone be able to do that?
Yeah, so I have I think what they might be asking in that question is like, is there an easy cow soy
Oh,
shortcut?
perhaps, right. Okay.
Because cow soy is not an easy
No,
dish.
right.
So what I've told my friends is what you would do as a cow soy shortcut is you take red curry paste, you mix it with yellow curry paste, and then you make the curry broth out of those two. So instead of having to like make the curry paste from scratch, you just use a combination of those two, and then you would add ginger. Yeah, then you and I would boost it with a little bit of ginger as well. And then that is a good enough sauce. And then you don't need, like, if you don't eat, if you are vegetarian or vegan, then you just skip all the meat, and you can add tofu. You can add lots of hearty vegetables, mushrooms. Like shiitake mushrooms are really good because they don't overcook, they don't go mushy, they go well with Asian flavors or any Asian mushrooms in general. I find is a really good thing to use in curries because they're quite hearty, and a curry is rich, and I think together they just can hold up to each other.
In your book, in Hot Tide Kitchen, you have a section there about one dish meals. That seems to be quite popular in the past few months. People have been wanting to like, okay, we're cooking at home, but we don't want to make, things that take hours to do. Can you give us some examples of some one dish meals people can make?
Oh yeah, fried rice and fried noodles are the like number one thing that's part of that one dish meal category. And they're so easy. Like fried rice is what I call the pizza of Asian food.
Okay.
Meaning, if you understand how it's made, you can put anything in it, right? You need the rice, you need some sauces, soy sauce, oyster sauce, fish sauce, whatever brown sauce you have, throw it in. A little bit of sugar is always nice to balance the salt. And then the protein, the vegetables is just completely up to you. So I think fried rice is definitely a really good one, especially like, during this time when you don't necessarily want to go to the store all the time. It's a good way of using up things. And you can also do the same with fried noodles. Fried noodles is the other pizza of Asian cuisine where you have a base, you have an understanding of how it works, and then you can add whatever you want. And so what I would suggest is watch a few videos on fried rice, but detach yourself from that specific kind of fried rice and just take in the process, understand the process. Okay, this goes in and then the rice goes in, and when does the sauce go in, when does the vegetable go in, and then apply that as a basic principle to whatever you have in your kitchen.
Tableside condiments is another area you have in your book. So maybe you can give people some idea, because like you go to a Thai restaurant, sometimes you'll see a few different tableside condiments they have, and right now people are saying don't put that in the restaurant, like kind of keep it in a separate area. But if you're at home, what would you suggest people have?
So our equivalent of salt and pepper is fish sauce with chilies in it. We call it prik nam pla. Prik is chili, fish sauce is nam pla. And at the very basic level, people ask me for a recipe for prik nam pla. And I was like, there is no recipe. You put chilies in fish sauce and you call it a day. At the very basic level, you can spice it up with a squeeze of lime juice or some chopped shallots or garlic, something like that. And that would last quite a long time, but because there's fresh chilies in it, I would keep it in the fridge. You can make another version that'll last longer using dry chili flakes, which in Thailand we would roast the chili flakes first and then add that to the fish sauce. Then you don't have any fresh anything in there, and it'll last a little bit longer. And that you can keep on the table in a little jar, and we just, anything that tastes like it needs a little bit more salt, you would just sprinkle that on. It goes great on rice, on noodles, on just about anything.
And how long can people keep sauces? I heard this the other day. Someone was saying, I've got a sauce in my fridge, and then I use this sauce. But, there's expiry dates on things sometimes. So how long would you keep sauces like this?
Okay. So all the salty brown sauces, soy sauce and fish sauce. Oyster sauce is a separate conversation. Soy sauce and fish sauce last theoretically forever, meaning that they're not gonna go bad and get mold or whatever because they're so salty. However, the flavors do deteriorate after a while. Like fish sauce, after it's been open, and if you don't keep it well sealed, if you keep it outside, eventually it'll get a little darker. It won't smell quite as good. It'll still be fine. But I find that if you keep fish sauce and soy sauce in the fridge, you maintain that flavor a lot longer. And when you do that, like it'll like years, like a year,
Okay.
it'll be fine. Oyster sauce, you definitely want to keep that in the fridge because it has thickener, it has a starch, and it does get moldy if you leave it outside.
Okay.
Not for a while, but eventually it will. So I definitely want to keep oyster sauce in the fridge. But once it's in the fridge, again, it will last indefinitely. I've never seen oyster sauce go bad in the fridge. In Thailand, we keep oyster sauce outside, but we use oyster sauce all the time. So we go through a bottle of oyster sauce like easily in a couple of months, right? So that's not the case for most people here. You probably have your oyster sauce for much longer than a couple of months. So keep it in the fridge.
There was one question here a minute ago about what type of rice they would use for fried rice.
I use jasmine rice, Thai jasmine rice, for everything.
Okay.
However, jasmine rice, especially if you get one that's labeled new crop, can be a little soft. So you want to add a little less water when you cook it, or you want to make sure you dry it out a little bit before you fry it. It doesn't have to be day old. There's this myth going around that in order to make good fried rice, you need to use day old rice.
Oh.
I have never worked in a restaurant that uses day old rice to make their fried rice. Like, can you imagine like the amount of rice they have to keep in the fridge? No,
right.
The rice goes directly from the rice cooker into the wok. But the reason why they can do it with no problem is, one, they cook their rice well and they don't add too much water, so the rice is not too soft going in. Two, they're only cooking like 1 or 2 portions of fried rice in a big wok at a time, so it has a lot of room to lose moisture. So there's not a lot of moisture trapped. What a lot of people do at home is like, I'm making fried rice for my family of 5, and they cook 5 portions of fried rice in their home size 12-inch wok or whatever, and there's just a ton of rice, and things just steam and stew, and they have a hard time stirring it, and they end up mushing it and things like that. So I always say you can use jasmine rice. It's fine. Make sure it's not too moist. Air it out if you have time, and don't crowd your pan. But I go for jasmine rice because it's much more aromatic and it's softer. So I find that it kind of absorbs sauce more readily because it's softer, and it's just a better tasting rice in general.
So Thai basil or holy basil, which one would you use? Because this is a little confusing. A lot of people ask about this. Now I know Maynam just said a couple days ago that, or Angus Ann said a few days ago that the price of, I think it was Thai basil, or I'm not sure, I get them mixed up, but is astronomical right now for his restaurant because there's only one flight from Bangkok to Vancouver currently, where previously they were every day. So, but people get confused, I think, in the stores, sort of. So for recipes, what do you normally use?
So Thai basil and holy basil are just 2 different herbs. It's like asking, mint and basil. They're just 2 different herbs that smell similar-ish but distinctly different. In Vancouver, I'm willing to bet that you can't actually find holy basil at very many places. Right. So if you see an Asian basil at the store, probably Thai basil. Okay. Most of the time, you're not going to have a choice. Restaurants have a choice because they have their special supplier and things like that, but like for as a person going to a store, I have yet to see holy basil at like your big supermarket. But the question is, which do you use? They each have their different places. Coconut-based curries usually take Thai basil. Thai basil goes really well with dishes that have a little bit of a sweetness to it, because it has like a sweet aroma to it. So it goes well with that. Whereas holy basil is a little bit hotter and more peppery. So it goes well with dishes that are not too sweet, but really spicy. Like it goes well with really spicy dishes. But I find, though, I'll give you a tip on this, that when dishes call for holy basil, it's actually a better substitute to use Italian basil than Thai basil. Okay. because the flavor between holy and Thai are so different. But holy basil and Italian basil, I find is a little more close. So like pad krapao is a dish that you see on most restaurant menus everywhere. And they usually call it like a Thai basil stir fry or whatever. Most places will use Thai basil. Theoretically, that should be holy basil,
Okay.
but most people don't have it. Gapao is holy basil. I feel like this is really confusing. And then okay. In summary, if the recipe calls for holy basil and you can't find it, use Italian basil.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip for everybody.
Yes.
And then rice cookers. So that's another thing. Some people have no idea how to make rice. You put it in a pot and then you hope it works out, and it usually doesn't. So is there any type of rice cooker that you like to use, or you suggest people use? And then what's the best way of cooking a nice fluffy rice?
I just did a whole video on comparing rice cookers. So if you want to check out my channel, I compare a really basic model, like the cheapest one you can get, with a fancy model. And my takeaway from that is if you're cooking jasmine rice, it's a really forgiving rice. So you get beautifully cooked rice using whatever kind of rice cooker you use, even stovetop, as long as you don't put too much water. That is the main thing for jasmine rice, is you have to know how much water to put. And that will vary depending on the rice itself as well. So when you first get it, it might take a trial and error. A good place to start is 1 part rice to 1.25 part water. Okay. Wash your rice first, because when you don't wash your rice, there's a lot of residual starch in there that makes it gummy. So imagine if you don't wash that rice, it's like cooking rice with a little bit of flour in the water. That's why you get gummy, sticky rice. And then low heat. If you're doing stovetop, low simmer all throughout will give you better rice than if you boil it. So it's more even. The rice will cook more evenly. And also, if you keep the heat really low, you're not going to burn the bottom of your rice so quickly, right? Because even if the water's dried out and you're a little behind at checking on it, the heat is so low that it gives you a lot of time before you start smelling burnt rice in your house.
Do you have any, I'm sure you do, but what are your go-to flavors when you're cooking something at home for your family?
Mm-hmm.
What are your go-to flavors?
Oh my God. It depends on the mood. It depends on my mood. But I cook I use soy sauce a lot. Soy sauce and fish sauce are like the 2 things that I feel like I grab every single day. Lime is something that I use quite a bit as well. Like in Thai cuisine, and this is kind of how Southeast Asian cuisine differs from maybe like Chinese or Japanese cuisine, is citrus features a lot in like everyday meal. Mm-hmm. So it's a dish might not, in any given meal, there's usually something sour involved, whether it's in the form of like condiment or like a soup that's seasoned with lime, or a salad that's like just got a ton of lime juice in it. So yeah, those are my go-to flavors: lime, soy sauce, fish sauce, garlic, tons and tons of garlic.
Mm. And for people here, I'm seeing a lot of people from all over the world joining us this afternoon, which is great to see, in Singapore and all over Canada and the US. Can you tell me brands? Now, we may have different brands here than they would have overseas, but any particular brands people should be looking for oyster sauce, for soy sauce, that kind of thing?
So for oyster sauce, here, my tip for oyster sauce is this. There are cheap ones and there are more expensive ones. Go for the more expensive ones. Most of the time, it's still not that expensive. We're talking like $3 versus $5. Okay. But you want to check the ingredient list. The oyster extract should be the first thing on the list. That's a high quality oyster sauce. If it's a lower quality oyster sauce, it'll have water first, because they add a lot of thickeners and fillers to make it, and then not as much oyster. For a lot of people, they'll keep 2. The cheaper one they'll use for stir frying, and then or in a case where maybe it's not such a main ingredient. And then the nice, more expensive one is something that they'll use where maybe it's the only seasoning they're going to use, or something where you really taste the oyster sauce. So that's oyster sauce. So just I would say, look at the ingredient list. With soy sauce, the classic Thai brand is the Healthy Boy brand.
Okay.
That's always the one that I like. And then fish sauce, I have three go-tos. I have squid, which is the classic Thai brand. Three crabs, which is a classic Vietnamese brand. It's a little milder than squid, a little sweeter, not as salty. And then red boat is sort of the premium one, which is harder to find, and it's a lot more expensive, but it's nice for when you're making something where the fish sauce is the star.
So someone just asked if you've ever thought of opening your own restaurant.
I have the past. In the past, when I lived in San Francisco, well, I guess I was part of opening. I was the chef of a restaurant that was open. They are now closed. I was there helping them open, set up the menu and everything. And then I left to come back to Canada because this is where I have my PR and all this stuff. And people ask me this a lot. I have no desire to open a restaurant.
That's what I figured. Yeah. And I don't think right now you'd want to do it anyway. Because during COVID is not really a great time.
It was such a great learning experience. And I've learned like I wouldn't become the cook that I am today without all the restaurant experience. But it's not an experience that I feel like I need to repeat. Not that it was awful, but like lifestyle wise, like I have a baby now, right. Like, you know, like, and I just so much more, what I am really passionate about is teaching people how they can cook their own food at home and empowering people to do that at home so that you wouldn't have to go to restaurants as much to get such good food.
Right. So, now COVID is kind of in the spring. Now people are still, we're still dealing with this situation, but a lot of people want to get out of the house. It is summertime in most parts of the world, and they're just coming on right now. Any suggestions of some quick recipes people can make for summer Thai dishes, I guess?
Mm-hmm. So Thai salads are terrific summer dishes. Not to mention also, unlike Western salad, we don't put like delicate leafy greens in our salad, so they last quite a while. So if you make like the classic green papaya salad, for example, you can make it in advance, keep it in the fridge, take it on a picnic, and it'll last you because there's nothing in there that will wilt. In fact, it'll kind of get a little bit better if you have leftover papaya salad in the fridge. The papaya gets a little crisp from the cold, and then everything just kind of mingles better. You can make the dressing also in advance. And the dressing for most Thai salads is just a really simple fish sauce, lime juice, and sugar. And then you can add chilies, garlic to jazz it up a little bit. Yeah, but Thai salads of all sorts are really good. Lap is a really good summer salad as well. That's a little bit more hearty. It's ground meat, ground pork, ground chicken, whatever you want. Or you can do crumbled tofu as well for a vegan version. Lime juice, fish sauce, chilies, toasted rice powder, just ground up toasted rice, and some mint. And then you have something that's, you know, heavy enough to be like a light lunch on its own. But Thai salads, there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of varieties, and they're great for the summer.
Okay. Well, this has been a great afternoon chatting with you. I'm sure
Thank you.
People now all over. We've got UK and Ireland. Everybody's joining us, which has been wonderful having you today. Thank you so much. I know that you have some things that you have to do this afternoon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right.
It's a busy time, working on my kitchen reno so we can start filming Hot Thai Kitchen here at my new place instead. So like there's just, there's stuff to do. And so yeah, somebody is coming to deal with my cabinets in a little bit.
So any last thing for you, like anything coming up for you in this over the summer that any cooking that you'll be doing that people can tune in to watch?
So I continue to post videos every 2 weeks. So there'll be a new recipe at least every 2 weeks. And then what I'm excited about is being done with this kitchen reno so that we can film in this new set. It'll be a nice, refreshing new season of Hot Thai Kitchen, I guess. And also, once the border reopens, my brother from LA is going to start coming up to film my show. So the style is going to all be different as well. So, but we're still kind of waiting on that because he's coming up from the States. So
yeah, and the border's kind of still closed. But anyway, yeah. Okay, lots to look forward to. But anyway, thank you again for joining me this afternoon. People can, if you've missed it, your friends who want to watch it, you can check out my IGTV channel this afternoon. It'll be up. The video will be up shortly.
Thank you, Richard. These are really great questions.
Well, it was great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.